Hello guys, and welcome to another vlog. And today, it's kind of random, possibly coming out of nowhere type thing, but I wanted to talk some more about the Walking Dead, the video game. And the reason why is because I've spent the last couple of days kind of binge watching a Let's Play of the first season and the 400 Days DLC on YouTube by one of my favorite YouTubers, which is Minx. The reason why, kind of out of nowhere, that I did that was because I noticed that she was streaming Season 2 and that she started to put up some episodes of Season 2. And I never saw her play the first season because when that came out, I was not subscribed to her. I barely even knew who she was. When the first season came out, and actually when the first season, the last episode of the first season came out, I didn't have internet right around the time that everybody was starting to play it and put up their videos. I had held off on the game itself and watching anybody play it because I didn't know much about it, but I wanted to play it. I'd seen enough that I wanted to give it a shot, and I waited for the physical version of the game to come out, and just happened to be at a point in time when I didn't have any internet, so I played the entire game all the way through. Loved the hell out of it. I did a favorite video game video on that. It's in my favorite video game series. And because it was amazing, and the second season was amazing and all that, but it's not just for what I like about it. It's not just for my experience with it. I also fell in love with the game over and over again from watching people like Red Wolf, PewDiePie, Cry, and now Minx. And I wish more of the YouTubers that I watched had played it. In fact, I think maybe some of them have. So it may be something I'll look into, watching some other people's playthroughs of it. But anyway, I mainly wanted to see Minx and what she thought about it, because she is a very unusual YouTuber. Some of the YouTubers I watch are loud and boisterous and funny and over the top, and are known for being, even annoying in some instances, due to their personality, at least the persona that they put on YouTube. Minx being one of those that a lot of people don't like because they think she's really loud and obnoxious at times. But what I thought was funny was, just taking PewDiePie for example, so many people have always been all over Pewds for screaming and yelling and going on and doing the stupid voices and the dumb jokes or the rude and crude jokes or whatever. And then you put a game like that in front of him and you wait to see what he does, and he makes his jokes and stuff, but over the course of playing that game, it's a game where unless you just have no heart and soul, it's going to change you. It's going to make your true colors really come through. And that's absolutely what it did. With PewDiePie, by the end of it, he was crying. He cries at the end of it. And I guess it's not too late for a spoiler warning, so spoilers are going to pop up here. But in the end of it, pretty much, Lee dies. How he dies is kind of up to you. You can just leave him behind because he gets bit right at the end of the 4th episode of the first season of the game. So he's going to turn into a zombie. So he's dead, basically, is what I'm saying. And then for a lot of people's playthroughs, you cut his arm off. You could leave his arm on. I did it both ways because I played it back to back. When I played through the first season of it, as soon as I was done, I started up a new game and tried to make some different choices and whatnot. And I did both. When one, his arm was cut off, and the other, his arm is left on. It doesn't matter. It doesn't save him. It doesn't really slow down or save him any time. That's another issue with the game altogether that I think I've already said enough about. But anyway, he's going to die. He can either be left behind to turn into a zombie, or you can have Clementine shoot him and stop him from being a zombie. It's a tough choice. It's an emotional one. All the things that are leading up to it, though, are super emotional, so it's like a roller coaster. You wouldn't believe if you haven't played it. If you haven't played it and you're still watching it, though, for the spoilers, I guess, whoops, that's your bad, though. I did say spoilers. But PewDiePie cried. Cry was emotional. Obviously, you couldn't see if he was crying, but if I remember right, it's pretty obvious. You can tell when these people are getting emotional. Red Wolf was emotionally touched by it. Minx was touched by it too. But I just thought that it was the point I wanted to make was that, well, I guess I didn't quite enter into the point-making stage of this. It was another point I was wanting to make. So many people have started from these channels where they're kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm playing a game, guys, and oh, wow, that was scary. I don't really know what to say. And then as they do it for weeks and months, and even, for some of these people now 2 or 3 years, this personality blossoms out of them. And Pewds was on that verge, and Markiplier has never played The Walking Dead. I wish that he would. My God, I wish that he would. I don't care that it's been a couple of years. I'd love to see Mark play this game. Although I would have loved to have seen him do it about, say, 6 months ago to a year ago, when he hadn't started to become kind of a caricature in some ways. That's the point that I'm trying to make. These people start off at a certain level, and now they're personas. Now they're almost like characters that they perform for us whenever they sit down and do a video. Pewds is pretty bad with that, mainly just because I don't like how he edits the hell out of stuff. He plays just such random video games. He doesn't even put the names of the games in his videos anymore, so you don't really know what you're going into. But that's his decision, and I still watch his stuff because I'm still entertained. Markiplier has gotten to the point where it seems like he has to make silly jokes and noises and come up with characters and names and stuff like that. And they've all progressed to that point. Thankfully, the real people, well, I'm not going to say that about Cry, because Cry has pretty much been the same guy. I love his integrity when it comes to that. Even though he's friends with people, really close friends with people on the internet who are doing that, like Pewds. Cry has always kind of stuck to his gun about that. Anyway, I'm drawing this out a lot longer than I expected to. Minx is someone who I think has actually went in the opposite direction. These earlier videos of her on The Walking Dead, and a few of the old videos that I've seen of hers, for the most part, I've only been watching her stuff for maybe a little more than a year. And it's been a lot of the Gmod stuff, so it's fun and it's role play, but it's still pretty real. It's organic. It's not, let me sit down and I'll be kind of a dumbass and a dork for my video, but that's not really who I am. She was hyperactive and over the top back then. She went into her first season of The Walking Dead basically saying, I'm going to just play this game as an asshole. I'm going to shit stir, and I'm going to do all kinds of nonsense. And then I heard it in her commentary as it went through every episode of that first season. She changed. She started to connect more. It did become emotional for her at the end, and it was really cool to see that. And like I said, I think now Minx is more of herself these days in her videos than she was a year or two ago in some of those videos that she did. So anyway, yeah, that was a lot. That was a long diatribe about that, and, whatever. But now I want to talk about The Walking Dead. Now that it's fresh on my mind, a new playthrough of the game, it made me think of a bunch of stuff that I kind of overlooked when I finished Season 2. And it mainly revolves around the characters in the game who are still alive, or at least we assume are still alive. Near the end of the first season of The Walking Dead, Kenny, who's a big part of the entire story, gets separated from the group, and it's shown, it's done in such a way that you can't visually verify that he's dead, but they try to make you think that he's dead without showing it. He could either go down underneath the balcony. If you didn't let Ben die in the bell tower, Ben falls off of this balcony and is pretty much done for, and Kenny stays behind to either fight off the zombies, or the way I always thought it went, I think it was the way that I chose in my game, was that he was going to make sure that Ben was shot and killed and in the head so that he wouldn't become a zombie. But you get left with the sounds of what sounds like the zombies are attacking both of them. Or if Ben is gone and you continue on, or I don't know if maybe there's a choice to not go down and do that with Ben, Kenny can also end up going down inside of an opening through the roof of a building when he accidentally knocks, or the walkie-talkie accidentally gets knocked down there. In Minx's game, it gets accidentally knocked down there by Kenny, so he feels bad and he goes down. Well, no, he doesn't go down. Krista went down, and then he felt bad about it, and after saying stuff about helping his friends and doing the right thing, he felt obligated. He was like, I can't say what I just said and then not try to save her. So he goes down, she gets out, we don't see him anymore, he runs off, and once again it sounds like maybe he's caught, maybe he's killed, or maybe he does get away. And of course, spoilers once again, he comes back in season 2, because like I said, they never showed him actually die, they didn't show his body or anything. So he comes back in the second season and is a big, important part of it. But I talked more about that, I think, in the other video. What I wanted to mention in this one is how many characters from that first season, and even a little bit into the beginning of the second season, we never did see. We never got any more of like a story, like, you know, we were never filled in or informed as to what happened to those characters. I'm still mad that Krista did not appear in any of the endings that I've seen for season 2. You know, Omid and Krista make it into season 2, and Omid dies in the first few minutes. Then you get separated from Krista a few minutes after that, and it's like, where did she go? What happened to her? But out of the first season, there were a whole bunch of other characters that, you know, it just begs to know, where are they? Molly comes to mind. Molly chooses not to go with the group and is gone before Clementine is rescued by the one guy. Where did she go? Is she ever going to figure into anything? Or do we just go with the fact that she's gone one way or another? What about Vernon? Vernon leaves after propositioning Lee about taking Clementine and protecting her instead of her going with Lee. And then, of course, he leads his little group of cancer survivors and medical patients to go steal the boat. And then in the 400 Days DLC, you see most of the rest of the group except for Vernon. And I don't remember them saying anything about Vernon being dead. They just said they recalled the things that Vernon did and how they got to where they were at. So where's Vernon at? Here's a big one. Where's Lily? In most games that I know of, Lily shoots and kills. I think it's either Carly or Doug, depending on which one you saved. And then you have the option to either leave her behind right there on the road where it happened, or you can take her with you and she steals the RV when they get to the train that's blocking the road. And she leaves. She's not dead. So, where is she at? Now, I know that I'm aware of people having said that Lily may be a character from the graphic novel, but also possibly in the show. I've only seen the first 2 seasons of the show. I have not watched season 3 or 4 or 5 that's getting ready to start. I have to buy the seasons when they come out, and I've just been so hooked on, YouTube stuff in the last several months that I haven't watched shit. I haven't watched anything that I wanted to, so I'm behind in that regard. But there's never been a clear-cut, direct connection between any of the three properties. They seem to be based off of stuff and have some of the same characters, but I don't know. I thought I heard some talk. Somebody said they thought that a Lily who shows up in the show might be the Lily from the game, or I could be completely wrong. But I'd just be curious to know what happened to Lily. Does she factor into anything at all in season 3? Who else? Glenn. Glenn was a big one. In fact, I was really surprised that I didn't think about Glenn until I watched Minx play the first season. I was surprised that Glenn didn't pop back up before the end of the first season or at some point in the second season. I mean, I don't remember seeing him. I know that Glenn is way more tied into, or at least he's supposed to be the same character as the one from the TV show. I mean, he's an Asian fella with a ball cap kind of deal. Although I don't know that the character from the show is named Glenn, so I'm going to have to split off for a second here and look this up. Research on the fly. I feel bad for not knowing, though, because I am a big fan of the TV show. Yeah. His name in the TV show is Glenn. Well, anyway. So, but what happened to Glenn? Glenn said he was going to go to Atlanta. He needed to know if his friends were okay. It was bad in Atlanta and he wanted to go. And I guess maybe that is kind of a little tip of the cap to the TV show, because Atlanta is where that happens, and he was in Atlanta when he encounters Rick. Man, I need to watch the show again. Minx didn't have a high opinion of the show, but I really enjoyed the show, what I'd seen in the first 2 seasons. I thought it was really, really good, and it was worth the praise that had been lauded upon it so far. And anyway, so you got Glenn, you got Molly, you got Lily. Where are these folks at? What happened to them? Will they ever come back into play? Add on top of that Krista. I feel like there's probably some other people from this first season that I should be thinking about. But I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind. But that brings me to the 400 Days DLC. I thought that was a really interesting concept. A little appetizer. And it did tie into both the first and the second season. Your decisions from the other games were supposed to be integrated into that. And your decisions in that were supposed to play out in Season 2 as well. But in the end, I felt like they didn't do much of it justice. Now, in my game, of course, Bonnie's a big part of it. And I believe that Bonnie's a big part of everybody's game. I'm not 100% sure why they went with Bonnie of all the characters that they did. My thoughts on the characters, I guess, would be something to talk about. Bonnie, I was just like, okay, Bonnie, whatever. All the little play with her and Leland was actually kind of cool. I enjoyed the writing and the flirtatiousness between the two. It was nice to think of characters in this world still being able to do that, still being able to, fall in love and have relationships and be interested in one another, even though he was cheating on his own wife almost blatantly right in front of her. But once she was responsible for Leland's wife, Dee, for basically dying, she did die, but once that happened and then the things worked out the way that they did, you didn't see Leland anymore. Bonnie was in the second season. She was with this other group, and Leland was nowhere to be found. What happened to Leland? And Bonnie was a character who was almost kind of ambiguous all the way through it to the very end of Season 2. It was kind of hard to tell whether or not she was going to be good or bad, and her decisions, didn't help out. Vince. Vince was actually probably my favorite character of all of them. His story was really short, but I really liked him. He felt like the natural leader of that group. But the group doesn't even come together until you find them all at the end, and then they get split up again. But Vince, I don't know, he was the one that I kind of wanted to play. I wanted there to be more of an experience, and I wanted him to be the leader. And in my game, I don't know if this is the way for everybody, but in my second season game, Vince is there, but he's kind of in the background, and I think he's only in a scene for a few seconds, has a couple lines or something like that, and that was about it. It was like totally don't do those characters any kind of justice, just put them on the back burner except for Bonnie. Then you had Shell and her sister Becca. Didn't really like them, especially Becca. Becca was basically what Minx's version of Clementine should grow up to be. Just a total bloodthirsty, spiteful, mean, vengeful little girl who was going to grow up to be, well, more likely to be a serial killer than anything else, in my opinion. Shell was whatever. Their friend Stephanie, I don't know, it's silly to say it, but I felt like an attraction towards her character, and I thought she could have been cool, and I felt more of a sympathetic pull towards her, especially because she tried to escape from that little group, Roman and some of Vernon's people, and Shell and Becca and Stephanie. So I felt an actual little mini connection between that character, and then in the end of that, it was either you were going to kill her or you were going to leave the group, and that she would have been killed one way or another. Seemed like such a waste. Wyatt, Wyatt was okay. He was the dude bro type guy. Him and his friend, whose name I can't remember now, and he took off. And Wyatt's the one that joins that group. I liked the tie-in between him and Nate, who was a part of Russell's little story, and I'll get to Russell here in a second. I liked the way that played out, but in the end, Wyatt to me was just kind of forgettable. Russell was a cool character. I liked him. I liked he was a really loner person, and he was young. And then he ended up with Nate, who was definitely the most interesting all-around character, and definitely one of the best bad guy characters in a lot of the video games I've played in the last several years. I hated the guy, but he was one of those where you love to hate him. He was just a perfect antagonist. So I wanted to know a little bit more about what happened with that. When I played it, Russell left him after the thing in the diner with the old folks. In Minx's game, he stays with them, but in the end, after all those five little stories are done, you end up meeting Tavia and a couple or however many characters. I don't know if the game gives you the option for all of them to go or all of them to stay, but I just had like a couple characters who went. Most of the people I watched who played it had a couple people who went. And Tavia ends up being a part of the bad group that you encounter in Season 2. So in the end, after playing the 400 Days DLC, I was hopeful for how their stories were going to intermingle with Season 2. And then after being done with Season 2, I was very, very let down. 400 Days was a fun little experiment, and like I said, I made a connection with a few of the characters. But in Season 2, they were not there. And it wasn't enough to just be like, well, at least I had Clementine and Kenny comes back and a bunch of new people. No, I still wanted to see these other people go on. I wanted to know what happened with them. So that was a bit of a letdown. But as we know, Telltale Games, they're amazing with these games. And I can't wait to see what happens in Season 3. I'm hoping that it still comes out on a console that I own, or I'll go with the computer version if I have to. I've decided on that. If I've said in the past that I wouldn't do it, I'm a liar. I would do the PC version if I had to. There's no doubt about it. But anyway, who knows what kind of curveballs they could throw us in Season 3, who could come out of the woodwork. But I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait, actually. And I know it'll be a while. It just ended a couple weeks ago, and it's just because it's fresh on my mind. And I'm getting ready to go to YouTube right now and see who else I like has played the first season. I'll probably be throwing them in my watch later list, and watching another series. Good times. Well, anyway, I'll end these vlogs like I've been trying to do. Currently, my watch later list is at 287, so it's not horrible, but I'm staying level. I'm not making a bunch of progress, and I'm not getting piled up on unless I decide to put some Walking Deads in there, and then I'm in trouble. Well, anyway, I've blathered on long enough. Thanks for watching if you did. Anybody who's played the Walking Dead games, what are your opinions on it? It's a show that I love, and I just can't get enough of it. So, anyway, I'm done. See you next time.